Alright, this is Math 8. This is Chapter 1, Lesson 2, looking at some homework practice on these worksheets here that go along with your textbook today. So first of all, we have to write its expression using the exponents that are given. Alright, so look for my groupings here. I have two 3's, so I'd write that as 3 squared, and I have one m, so I'll leave that as simply m. On number 3, I can see that I have a 2, I have 2 5's, and I have 1, 2, 3 D's. So I could write this as 2 times 5 squared times D to the 1, 2, 3. I'm not solving it, I'm just writing it using exponents there. And that's the way I could write that out there. And number 5, I look for my things I have in common. I have -7, -7, -7. So I actually have 3 -7's. So I write -7 to the third power times, look at my G's, I have 1, 2 G's, so G squared, times my H's, 1, 2 H's. And now I've written it out that way. So I have -7 cubed times G squared times H squared. This next set, it asks us to evaluate. Evaluate's a nice way of saying, figure it out, what's the answer going to be? This is essentially -8 times a -8 times a -8 times a -8. And we're going to do that again and again and again. So I'm going to use my calculator now. You could do it by hand, but a shortcut would be to say that this is 64 and this is 64. And so what I do is I do 64 times 64 and I end up with 4,096 as my answer. It's going to be positive because a negative times a negative is a positive. This negative and negative is a positive, and a positive times a positive is still a positive. Okay, well, let's move over here. Notice in this case here on number 9, we're going to the 5th power. Because it's a negative number and I'm going to an odd power, I'm still going to have a negative answer. To write this out, what I end up having is 3/5 times 3/5 times 3/5 times 3/5 times 3/5. And I could write it all as negative if I chose to put that out there. But again, negative times negative is positive. The positive answer times negative is negative. The negative times the negative answer is going to be positive. But that positive times the negative is going to be a negative answer. So I know I'm going to have a negative answer in my solution. Now to find the numbers out. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is a lot more. So I get my calculator out and do 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and I find out my top number is 243. For my bottom number, it's 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, so 5 of those, and we find out that 5 to the 5th power is 3,125. Again, I'm going to leave it in this form with a negative in front because that's where I'm at, and I'm not going to reduce anymore. I'm going to leave it just like so. On number 11, I have 3 to the 4th power, which is going to be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Oops, messed up there. 3, 2, 3, 4. And 3 to the 4th power is actually 81. And I'm going to subtract from it 5 squared. So we do this part here. 5 squared is 25. So 81 minus 25 is going to be 56, and I leave it just like so. On number 13, I'm going to do the exponents first. You can think back to order of operations. Exponents come first. So 4 cubed, 1, 2, 3, is actually 64. And I'm going to divide 64 by 2 cubed, which is 8. 64 divided by 8 is 8, and I leave it there as so. For our last problem to take a look at, let's look at number 17. We're going to plug the values of m and n into our equation there. So m squared becomes 6 squared, and we subtract from that the value of n squared. Well, this is cubed. Well, 6 squared is 36 minus 2 cubed. 2 cubed is 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. And 36 minus 8 is going to be, it's going to be 28. And so my answer for number 17 is 28. Hopefully that helps you go a little bit on your work today. Good luck on the remaining problems.